Hello everyone. So in this video we are gonna see a poem by Robert Browning, My Last Duchess. We have already seen about the great Victorian poet Robert Browning in my earlier videos on his poem Rabi Ben Ezra. So this poem is also a dramatic monologue which was written and published in the year 1842. So it has a historical background. This poem has a historical background of the 16th century. It is based on the Duke of Ferrara, Alfonso. So the speaker of the poem here is the Duke, that is Alfonso. So to sum up the poem's gist in a nutshell, Alfonso, the Duke of Ferrara, is seen conversing to a guest. So he shows his guest the painting of his former lover, the Duchess of Ferrara, which is hanging on the wall, and he narrates about the Duchess to the guest. So we'll go directly into the poem now. First few lines of the poem, Ferrara. So the setting of the poem is given in the before the text of the poem, Ferrara. That's my last Duchess, painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call that piece a wonder. Now, Fra Prandol's hands work busily a day, and there she stands. So Alfonso, the Duke of Ferrara, he speaks about his last Duchess to the guest. Last Duchess in the sense his former wife is no more, and only his painting is being hung on the wall, and he shows the guest the painting which was drawn by Fra Pandolf, a great painter. So in these few lines, Alfonso praises the painter Fra Pandolf, who worked hard to make it a lifelike. So this painting of the Duchess is lifelike, as if the Duchess is alive through the portrait. Next few lines. Will it please you sit and look at her? I said. Fra Pandolf by design, for never read strangers like you that pictured countenance, the depth and passion of its earnest glance. So the Duke Alfonso is now pleasing the guest to have a seat and look at the portrait of his former Duchess, and he says that strangers like the guest look at the face of the painted Duchess in depth, passionate and earnest glance, and turn to the Duke and say, but to myself they turned, since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you but I, and seemed as they could ask me if they durst means dared. How such a glance came there, so not the first are you to turn and ask this, sir. It was not her husband's presence only called that spot of joy into the Duchess' cheeks, perhaps. So the Duke says to the guest that whoever he reveals the picture of the former Duchess will look at the picture in depth and at once look at the Duke, because it is only whom reveal the painting, as no one has the authority to open the painting. It was always closed up with a curtain, and only if the Duke wishes to show to his guest, he would show. So all the strangers who came to his house and who viewed the painting of his Duchess looked directly at the Duke and asked him how such a glance came to that picture. That means how such an expression was seen in that painting. It was so lifelike. So all the strangers who watched the picture asked the Duke the same question, repeated the same question to the Duke. And the reply of the Duke to all the strangers he said that it was not my presence alone, that is, it was not the Duchess husband's presence alone made that spot of happiness in her face. Perhaps he tracks the conversation, since her face glow was not only the appearance of the Duke, someone else too. So we'll see who is that. Next few lines. Fra Pandolf chanced to say, her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much. Mantle means her cloth, too much, or paint. Must never hope to reproduce the faint half blush that dies along her throat. Such stuff has courtesy, she thought, and cause enough for calling up that spot of joy. The Duke says, perhaps the painter Fra Pandolf happened to compliment my wife on her attire, the dress she wore. Maybe he would have commented that her shawl drapes over her wrist too much, or paint could never recreate the faint half blush that was fading on her throat. And the Duke comments again to the guest that his former Duchess thought that those comments made a spot of joy. Next few lines. She had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad, too easily impressed. She liked whatever she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. The Duke now criticizes his former Duchess by saying that she has a heart which too easily made her happy or impressed. She get impressed easily. She was made happy easily. He comments that she liked everything and everyone she saw. This statement of the Duke suggests that the Duchess was easily impressed on those whoever crossed her path, whoever crossed her life. These lines indeed reveals the Duke's possessiveness for the Duchess. He couldn't bear the fact that the Duchess was giving favor to everyone. She was giving importance to everyone equally. So this fact couldn't be digested by the Duke. Next few lines. Sir, it was all one, my favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bough of cherries some officious fool broke in the orchard for her, the white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her like a approving speech, or blush at least she. So this few lines reveals that the Duke says that to the Duchess everything was same, and everything made her equally happy, even his favor, the setting sun in the west, the branch of cherries which some of his officials snapped off the tree from the orchard for her, or the white mule is a horse, she rode on all around the terrace. So everything was equal to her. His favor, his gift, as well as whatever she sees, whatever she enjoys is equal. It is equal. She doesn't consider herself to be more superior. So everything was equal to her. She gave equal importance to everyone, right from her husband, the Duke, to the servant who snapped trees for her. Duke then criticizes her by saying she would say the same kind words or give the same blush in her face in response to all of them. So in a way he gets possessive. In a way the Duke gets possessive, as the Duchess feels the gift of the servant who brought cherries, as well as the gift of the Duke who gave a precious gift like jewels or something to be wore on her neck. So this indeed made him more possessive and made him start hating her. Next few lines. She thanked men good, but thanked somehow. I know not how, as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. So what I said earlier was repeated again. She never gave importance to the familial fame of the Duke. She treated everyone equal. Who would stoop to blame this sort of trifling, even had you skill in speech, which I have not, to make you will? So the Duke asked to the guest whether anyone would actually lower themselves enough to argue someone about their behavior. He feels that it is much meek to ask to lower themselves to argue about their behavior. So he never opens up to his wife to ask such a question, why are you behaving weirdly, and so on. Next few lines. Quite clear to such an one and say just this or that in you disgust me, here you miss, or there exceed the mark. And if she let herself be less than so, nor plainly set her wits to yours, forsooth and made excuse. So he says that even if he were good with words and were able to clearly depict what he was thinking, he would say, this characteristic of yours disgusts me, or here you did too little, or here you did too much. So, but he couldn't open up to that extent. And if the former Duchess had let herself be degraded by changing, instead of being stubborn and making excuses, even then the act of confronting her would be beneath him. So the Duke refuses to ever lower him like that. So he never wants to openly point their behavior, as it would lower his status. Next few lines. Even then would be some stooping, and I choose never to stoop on, sir. She smiled, no doubt, whenever I passed her, but who passed without much the same smile? This grew, I gave commands. So the Duke feels that he would never stoop to that extent to ask such questions on remarking their character. So he is saying the guest that she smiled to me, as well as she smiled to everyone who passed her. So the smile she gave to me, as well as the onlookers she saw, was the same. So this grew, I gave commands. So this indeed made me furious to an extent, and I gave commands not to smile at everyone as she smiles at me. Next few lines. Then all smiles stopped together. There she stands as if alive. Will it please you rise? Well, meet the company below. Then I repeat. So after all his comments not to smile at everyone, all her smiles too stopped forever, and there she stands as if alive, and she became a portrait now, as she is no more. Presumably because he had killed her, he would have killed her, but it is not mentioned like that so in the poem, so we couldn't confirm the fact that but that the Duke killed his former wife. And the next lines, he asked the guest to rise up and accompany him to meet the other guests who are downstairs. So the guest to accompanies him. Next few lines. The Count your master, I know munificence, is ample warrant that no just pretence of mine for dowry will be disallowed, though his fair daughter's self, as I avowed at starting, is my object. Nay, we will go together down, sir. So in these few lines, we could come to know that the guest is the employer of the Duke's father-in-law. The Duke is going to marry again, and his father-in-law has sent his guest to watch out the necessary things needed to be prepared for the marriage. And the Duke says now to the employer that is the guest about the dowry, which his future father-in-law is about to give. He says that the Duke says that he needs not the dowry, but the Count's beautiful daughter is his primary object. So he needs only the Count's beautiful daughter and not the dowry which he adds to her. Next few lines. At starting is my objects, nay, we'll go together down, sir. Notice Neptune, though taming a seahorse, though a rarity, which Claus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. So the Duke ends the speech by demanding that he and the Count's employer go downstairs together, and the Duke directs the attention of the guest to the statue of god Neptune taming a seahorse. So it was a painting. So it was an a work of art which was done by Claus of Innsbruck in bronze, specially for him. So it is an indirect way of hint he gives to the guest, to his future wife, so that he would treat his future wife ruthlessly if she misbehaves like his former wife. So to conclude, the psychology of the Duke of Ferrara is the subject of the poem, which Browning has shown through his power of dramatic interpretation. So thank you so much for listening. Hello everyone. So in this video we